Yeah, maybe if you had like a more competent producer, you could like get your shit together and make sure that all your cameras and microphones are working the first time. But to my defense, the other microphone, because the other one that we had was not good. It was not good. It did not work.
Yeah.
And then take two. It was recording when I sat down.
It was recording. It just did. Hey there, travelers. Welcome to Let's Just Go podcast. I'm Kayla. And this week, Chris couldn't be bothered to stop traveling long enough to record a podcast episode with me. So instead, I have a very special guest, Brian Bishop.
Hi, it's me. Hi.
Brian is my boyfriend, and he's also the editor, and we'll also say producer of this show.
And that's about as much as we need to say. That's perfect.
Yeah. Last weekend, Brian and I went out to Leavenworth, Washington. So that's what we're talking about this week. We are both born and raised in Washington State. I've been to Leavenworth a couple of times. Brian had never been until last weekend.
Right. Yeah. I had no idea what to expect. All I knew about Leavenworth is that it was a sleepy Christmas town.
That's the perfect way to describe it.
A sleepy Bavarian Christmas town. And that's all I knew going in. So tell me about Leavenworth.
Yeah. So Leavenworth is over the Cascade Mountain Range from Seattle, roughly 2 hours from Seattle. Took us about 3 to get there from Tacoma. And yeah, it's a sleepy Bavarian themed Christmas town. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. The heaviest crowds are definitely in the holiday season. It's beautiful. There's snow, there's lights, there's a giant Christmas tree. There's a Nutcracker museum. There's a Christmas store. Like, they very much lean into that.
They have like a gingerbread bakery.
So Leavenworth, there really is stuff to do all year round. There's Oktoberfest in the fall. It's very busy in the summertime as well with water sports. You can go in the river. It's glacial water, so it's fucking cold. But you can go inner tubing. You can go kayaking. You could probably go paddleboarding. You could go whitewater rafting. Like, there's a lot that you can do in that water. But we didn't do any of that. Brian wants to go back and do that, but we didn't do any of that.
It's true. Yeah, I would like to go back. I don't know about paddleboarding because the river is running pretty hard.
Yeah, that's
pretty
why I don't
strong.
think so either.
But the kayaking would be fun. Kayaking, rafting.
I don't know about all that.
Inner tubing.
That's actually, so my best friend goes to Leavenworth, and when she goes, she doesn't go to town at all. She goes specifically to stay in a cabin in the middle of nowhere-ish, and then inner tube. And she has a great time when she does it. So when we said we were going to Leavenworth, she was like, are you going to the town or are you going to like hang out? And we were going to the town.
We were going to the town to hang out.
That's true. You're right.
Now that we know what Leavenworth is, let me tell you about the experience that I had there for the first time. Because I didn't know anything about the town. I knew that it was a sleepy Christmas Bavarian town. I wasn't excited. I thought it was going to be really kitschy, like really cheap facades on the sides of the building to make it look Germanesque. But ultimately it's a little bit better than that. It's like things are built in a roughly Bavarian style. And everything is consistently themed. But what's really exciting is they do have just a couple city blocks, not very big. So everything's walkable if you're going from any place in town to any other place in town. That's great. And within those couple city blocks, they have 2 really good breweries.
That's true.
What was that first place we went to? I don't remember.
Blew It. Every time we talk about it, you're like, what is it again? Blew It. It's like you blew into something.
Like, oh, fuck, I messed that up. I blew it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Blew It.
Yeah.
Blew It Brewing. And then Icicle Brewing. And I was familiar with Icicle Brewing because mean, because I'm a local and I drink beer, so of course, but for whatever odd reason, Blue had escaped me, and yet we went there first. We went there first. We had a couple of beers and sat outside, and we watched people go by, and I noticed, as we were sitting outside watching the crowds, there were a lot of Burmese mountain dogs, just a lot of those.
Yeah. Yeah. And we then found out that there was actually a festival going on that weekend.
I should say Burmese mountain dogs and a lot of like
Doodles.
Japanese Lolita fashion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But it turns out it wasn't Lolita fashion. It was
No, it was traditional Bavarian wares, supposedly.
big frilly dresses or big frilly dresses to me. I don't understand the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So we looked it up and I was like, oh my gosh, there's actually like a festival going on here this weekend. And they had a maypole and they had traditional musicians. They were doing some dancing. There was a little art festival thing going on. And then we had actually brought stuff to go hiking. And I realized, oh my God, there's a 5K happening tomorrow. So Brian and I decided to do a 5K. We have not run since January.
Granted, we did run the half marathon in January, so it's not like we are incapable runners, but we are out of shape. That was 5 months ago.
So we're out of shape. But a 5K sounded like fun. And it's 3 miles. We can do 3 miles. We walked most of it, but it was great. It went through downtown and then along some nice trails along the river and then through a couple neighborhoods and then back to the center of town. And that's what we did with our Sunday morning. It was great. I think we had a good time.
I think we did. Yeah, absolutely. And even better is like I go into this town knowing nothing about it, and we get into this 5K where now suddenly I get to see all of it in a single route. And not only do I get to see the like 2 or 3 square city blocks that is Leavenworth, but I got to run through the forest around surrounding it and along the river that runs through it. And it was just a perfect experience because this is just quintessential Pacific Northwest, and it's exactly what I've been missing living in Texas and exactly what I wanted to get back to. So it was, we're going to say it was a wonderland out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was really beautiful.
I know. I am a beautiful person. What can I say?
So I do just want to touch on the fact, 2 things. One, there is actually an adventure park in Leavenworth. It's I want to say the first alpine coaster in Washington. We did not do it, but that is a thing you could do if you're looking for an adventure. There's also zip lining outside of town, which would have been fun to do, when the weather's nice. But the other thing is that the food in Leavenworth, it can be sort of hit or miss. So just to give you a couple of recommendations, if you're looking for a relatively inexpensive but filling meal, Munich House does a variety of different types of sausages. So you've got like brats, you've got kielbasa's, that type of thing. It was roughly $10, I think, per sausage for us. And they have a bunch of different types of mustard. They have homemade sauerkraut. Like, all in all, it was a good meal. I would go back there. We had a kielbasa and a brat and cut them in half and then like shared, and it was really good.
And those kielbasas at Munich House, they were really good. The kielbasa specifically, we had a kielbasa and a beerwurst. They have like 20 different kinds of mustards to put on there with sauerkraut and all that. And I just did, it was an amber beerwurst and then an amber mustard. And I put the amber mustard, I mixed it. I did it intentionally. It wasn't an accident. I put the amber mustard on the kielbasa.
Oh, you just really wanted that amber.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I don't remember what I did with the other one. I did sauerkraut on the other one, but I don't remember the mustard that I put on it.
That's okay. Semantics.
The point is, it was delicious.
Yeah. So we ate there. That was great. It was a good like budget friendly option. I will say there's like a McDonald's and a Starbucks right in town. If you're the kind of person who either is like picky or you have like picky kids, there are like more accessible things. That being said, we also ate at a fantastic restaurant called Larch. It's handmade pastas and craft cocktails. 10 out of 10. It was a wonderful experience. The pasta was fucking phenomenal. The cocktails were good. It's a very small, intimate place. You do have to make reservations, I'm pretty sure. We made reservations. But it was a great time. It's like hiding in like a back alley in town, and we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we'll just talk a little bit more about Large because it was so good. Little tiny restaurant. You walk in the front door and there's the main dining room. We got really lucky in that we sat in the bar, which is actually down a tiny hallway from the main restaurant. So it's a family town. So there were a lot of kids in the main dining area.
It was also Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah.
It was literally Mother's Day when we dined there.
So we don't have kids. We didn't want to sit near kids, and we got really lucky that they put us in the bar, so we didn't have to sit near kids. And the bar was so separated out that I forgot that it was not a strictly 21 and up establishment. Like, we had a good time. It was good food.
Yeah. Yeah, it was probably the best meal that I've had in my times that I've been to Leavenworth. So, I mean, all in all, Leavenworth is a great spot. There's tons of different accommodations. There's budget hotels. There's a lot of chain hotels. Like I think there's like a Holiday Inn and a Courtyard. I could be mistaken. But there's a variety of like hotel chains. There's boutique hotels. There are vacation rentals. You can do a whole ass cabin in the woods if you want to do that. There really is something for everyone. If you're wanting to like solo travel or if you're wanting to take the whole extended family, like you will find somewhere to stay, which I think is really great.
Yeah, it's a good time. You'll definitely find accommodations because there's a whole bunch of them you can make. And you don't have to limit yourself to just Leavenworth. As we opened with, there's all sorts of other activities outside the town. There's all the paddleboarding, not paddleboarding. That was the one that I said you probably can't do. Canoeing and kayaking and rafting and inner tubing. And then it's surrounded by national forest. So like untouched, just natural conifers everywhere. And these trees, if you've never been to the Pacific Northwest, are immense. Having just come from Texas, right? Because that's where we lived for the past 2 years. And before that, Las Vegas. So we're used to seeing much smaller plants. And like every time we arrive in Washington to visit or to move back temporarily, it's just I can't speak to Kayla, but I'm blown away with just the scale of the flora. And that's what you're surrounded by when you go to Leavenworth. These huge trees, no-cap peaks, just the scale of everything is huge. It's big. It's very big. It's huge.
The other thing about Leavenworth is that you don't actually have to drive to get there. So if you were wanting to take like a day trip or a quick weekend trip from Seattle, you can actually take the Amtrak from downtown Seattle. It'll spit you out in Leavenworth. I don't think it's near the town center. I've never taken it personally, so I'm not entirely sure where it drops off, but that is an option for you. The trains in Washington are pretty reliable. I know that that's not necessarily the case for Amtrak across other parts of the country, but that is an option for you. We really appreciate you listening to us. I gotta be honest with you. This is the third time that Brian and I have recorded this, and we're both like, let's just spit out the facts, wrap it up. So if it sounds like we're struggling, it's because we are.
But like we've recorded 18 minutes and we're probably going to cut only like 5 of those out because of the cat. So like there's more than 10 minutes worth of podcasts here. So we did pretty good.
That's true. But also like this is the real side of podcasting. That like you don't always have the energy to record the episode. You're not always going to have a great take. It's hard. Thank you all so much for supporting us. I'm hopeful that next week Chris will have his shit together and actually join me for a fucking episode. We'll see. We can only hope. But in the meantime, thank you so much for listening and watching and downloading and subscribing and engaging. We really appreciate it. I love knowing that I'm not just talking to a camera into a microphone and nobody's listening to me. Although I do love the sound of my own voice. And on that note, let's just go.
Let's just go.